Yes, there we are. Uh, it's me and my co-author for the wrap-up. Martin couldn't make it because he doesn't like digital technology, as you might know. So he sends his regards. But he has been helping me in wrapping up today, because I got truly inspired by what I heard, and I need to expire now something. And I was initially tempted to do it quite obviously from my own perspective, which is management. But my discipline and my language, they are so powerful. And I've realized today, yet another time, how powerful the language of management is in shaping what we say and how we say it about everything in our society, and about culture and creativity in particular. And so I thought that I would shift. Well, I didn't actually think that I would shift. I felt inspired by something that popped into my mind, and it was a book written in 1954 by Martin Heidegger, asking a question about technology and the role of technology in society, which I think is of high relevance today as well, and for the conclusions of this project and for the future of the ideas we've been discussing in this project as well. And so I would like to take you through a very brief and possibly confused wrap-up of what we heard on trying to follow on the suggestion that Martin Heidegger gave a few years ago. And I would start from the title of the paper, of the summing up of the different policies, reflections that we conducted in our regions. And the question is, the connection between what we state and what is in the title of the booklet, Creativity and Culture are the wisdom of places, and they are the wisdom of people. We insisted a lot on the relationship between places and people, and the truth and the authenticity of the human in places, in defining what is cultural and what is creative, and the way in which these two terms can contribute to the way in which we can better live together. And we also repeated several times that we live in a technological world, and we have to find a way of bringing the two together. How can we make sense of culture and creativity in a technological world? And this is something that Martin Heidegger was asking more than 50 years, 60 years ago. And this is why I think we can rephrase the question: how can we reveal the wisdom of culture, creativity, place, and people through technology? I think this is a fundamental question that will accompany us. It is defining our life in the present, and it will accompany us in the future as well. How can we extract, how can we value, how can we celebrate and reflect the truthfulness of culture and creativity through technology? Is there potentially a conflict between the wisdom of place and people and technology? According to Heidegger, there is a conflict that we need to address and unravel. And in order to express this friction, but also its possible solution, Heidegger came up with two ways in which technology can help us and does something to our lives in our contemporary society. Technology can bring forth or challenge forth. Technology can be used to reveal in two ways. Technology is revealing. Technology makes visible something, but in two fundamentally different ways. One is the one that Heidegger calls the bringing forth, and the other one is the challenging forth. And I will organize my next few minutes around these two notions and the consequences they have, because they differ. They differ in the type of angle that they take and the type of phenomena they describe, the way in which they describe them, and the type of social consequences they have. When we talk about bringing forth technology, the technology that brings forth is technology that reveals, but it reveals something, and in a way that refers back to something that Filippo just mentioned without mentioning the term, but he mentioned this idea of poiesis, the ability of the arts, the ability of the artist as a maker, of the poet as a maker, because let's remember that the word poiesis, which we now typically in our modern languages refer or identify a root, especially in the notion of poetry. But poiesis is not just poetry. Poiesis is the making of things. So a poet is a maker. Someone with a poetry is a maker. So this making, this extracting out of obscurity, something that is obscure, invisible, through poiesis, we can make it visible. And the artistic action, the act of the creative person, of the cultural operators, is essentially poetic in that sense. And in this poiesis, in this use of the poetic act, we capture the truth. The other notion that Heidegger mobilizes is the notion of aletheia, is the notion of truth. We capture truth, we grasp the essence of what we are, or of the world in which we are authentic, and we make the others become authentic by being poetic and capturing the truth. So for instance, the examples he makes are those examples that we often see in inspirational videos about culture and creativity. The blossoming of flowers, the coming out of a butterfly from a cocoon, the plummeting of a waterfall, all these images that are thought to be inspirational, they are precisely because they are poetic. And we use a lot of those images when we want to inspire ourselves. So we know what it is. We know what it is when we see it. We see poiesis because we mobilize those images. But this is, and this is what Heidegger warns us against, this is what modern technology, our technology, the technologies of our days cannot do. It does something else. Rather than bringing forth, it challenges forth. And what does it mean to challenge forth? Rather than bringing out from obscurity through poiesis, challenges forth boxes, challenges forth frames. So nature and societies and humans within societies and the wisdom of places in a challenging forth technological attitude are mostly seen as means toward an end, rather than the essence of what they are, rather than their essential manifestation. Things exist, concepts exist, we exist to the extent that we are useful for something, to the extent that we can be mobilized to produce a result. We don't exist, we don't make sense as such as us in time and space. We make sense only if we can be mobilized as instruments to an end. And how do we do that? Linguistically, we do that by enframing. We do that by boxing the word into objects, categories, events, notions. This is what my discipline does. This is why management is so powerful, because it is essentially a challenging forth technology. We construct models, we construct business models, we construct ideas, we box those ideas, we sell those ideas. No, we advise politicians on those ideas, and then the politicians, they make their plans, and then the plans becomes European projects, European programs, and then we implement them, and we do our projects according to this script, according to these categories that we have boxed. Heidegger tells us this is a risk. The risk is the one of following, of repeating the boxes and being unable to capture the essence. What this way of understanding technology reveals is not so much the essence, it reveals us humans as standing reserve. This is something that we've seen a lot recently in the cultural and creative field. Standing reserves happens when we as humans, when we as creative and cultural operators are not seen as good as such, as individuals. We are seen as something good for something. when we are mobilized into a mechanism of production, when it is not our essence but our usefulness that is underlined and celebrated in a way. For instance, in the CCI, we could say that a designer is standing reserve, ready to be used when she and her worth is defined not so much by what she is, but by what she can produce for the cultural and creative industries. So boxing culture and creativity, in my view and in Martin's view, is not a good way to do what we propose to do in our document, to do what we learned from Industry and other projects in the cultural and creative industries. So to conclude, what do we need? According to Martin and myself, we need more poiesis. We need more of what we just heard in the last deep talk. We can reveal more about the wisdom of place and people, first of all, by refraining from the excessive use of framing, of boxing, of categorization, and adopting a more poetic view, a more poetic stance, by focusing on the authenticity, the actual essence of what is in front of us, the actual essence of what culture and creativity is, rather than on the utility that it can have. This would be my advice. This would be my way of wrapping up what we understood, what I understood, what I think we collectively sensed, because this is a matter of sensing and being proud of what we sense, and maybe distancing ourselves from this constant necessity to attribute names and labels and make those names and labels products and productivity. Let's go back to poiesis. Let's go back to what we are.